I think we're all set. So please welcome Chief Growth Officer from Rockaway X, Samantha Bobot, and the rest of the panelists.
All right, we've got a packed house.
Wow, this is really exciting, guys. Here's conferenced out.
I feel like we saved the best for last, which is after 3 days of community vibes talking about the community.
Yay.
Yay. So I'm very lucky to be joined here because I certainly don't have the expertise. To talk all things community with a pretty interesting range of perspectives. So we have some that are focused more on the contributions they make to communities and how they make, when they're passionate, how they make it the most active, kind of show their enthusiasm. And then we have someone who is all about the vibes and managing a very robust global community. So before I take their words away or mince them entirely, I'm going to have them introduce themselves. Jake, do you want to kick off?
Sure. I'm Jake, also known as DAO Maximalist, and I'm part of the Juno community. And the Juno community is a very passionate community, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm Yannick. I'm with Chorus One. We're a staking provider, operating infrastructure for some 40-plus networks, including a lot of Cosmos chains. I'm working on the ecosystem partnership side for Chorus, which also includes the venture side, so we're actively investing as well through Chorus Ventures. And yeah, we're on the other side kind of contributing more to communities than having our own.
Yeah, I'm Hector. I'm the marketing manager at CKV. We are a validator, running validators in almost 20 chains, the majority of them in Cosmos. And yeah, as he said, like, we contribute to many communities. We also collaborate with other communities outside of Cosmos, like CK Hack, that they have their own community. And yeah, pretty excited to be here.
Yeah, so maybe to kick off, I feel like community can be a bit nuanced. Dare I say, sometimes it might even elicit an eye roll from some people, not in our ranks, but on the periphery, who are like, okay, but how do you measure it, right? How's it real? So maybe each of you can speak to that, kind of how you think about the communities that you are in the most and how you measure the strength of them.
That's a great question. So when I think of communities, like, community is a big word, right? And really there's like many different communities that like a project like Juno or many of the other layer ones in the Cosmos have to deal with, and they're all like, you know, different kinds of shareholders, if you will, right? Like, so with Juno, the developer community is a unique group that's really important, and they have their like certain needs that have to be met, you know. But then there's also, you know, the community of people that use the applications, and then there's the communities that are just the pure traders, and they're there for number go up. And then you have, you know, the validator community, and then you have also the contributor community, the people that are not developers but are, you know, like talking about the projects, making videos, things like that. Those are also a really important community. So. You know, in terms of, you know, metrics for communities, you know, you just want people talking about your project, right? You want people caring. What you don't want is like, you know, governance proposals go up and no one like tweets anything about it on Twitter. In many ways, like DPS is kind of a measure of like how much people like care about your project. And at the end of the day, I still think that community is the only moat in crypto. Like, everything else that you're doing can basically be copied. Like, you came up with a cool DeFi protocol. Guess what? There's going to be a bunch of other DEXs that are doing the same thing, even if your contracts are closed source. Like, everything you do is, and again, this copying is kind of how innovation happens. It's like, you know, stuff gets forked, that people make slight tweaks and changes, and that's great. But the one thing that is the moat is community. It's the people that stick with you. And as an example that I love to give is like Ethereum. Ethereum has one of the strongest communities in crypto. They have one of the strongest developer communities in crypto. A lot of the best Solidity developers, they don't do any other EVM chains. They just do it on Ethereum first, and they get like a ton of usage and traction. And like that's a really, really strong and awesome community. So I also think the Juno community is pretty great, but I'm biased.
Yeah, I think engagement is a good kind of measure on community activity, but not necessarily quality, right? And so I think for me, it always comes a little bit back to kind of intrinsically motivated parts of the community. Kind of as you mentioned with Ethereum, a lot of people they believe in the vision, they believe in the ethos of the project, and maybe also just are aligned professionally. This is kind of my work and my job, versus kind of the more extrinsically motivated people. That often come in the bull market that are solely focused on, okay, I have these tokens and number go up. But don't necessarily align and contribute otherwise to the community. So there's no like kind of proper engagement in terms of like qualitative engagement there. So, but yeah, I think otherwise you summarized it quite well.
Yeah, I think like coming back to the quality point and going back to the CK Hack community that I mentioned, I think like that community is an example in itself because it's a passionate group of people that want to move CK forward, that want to push this technology into many ecosystems, and we have been witnesses of that, like either in the bull market or in the bear market. Like it's a community that's growing, and not only growing in number, but also in the quality of what people are sharing. Like out of nowhere, they have created like study groups, like made by the community. No one, no the founder or anyone has interfered on that. It's a community that wants to push this narrative and this technology forward that comes together for that common good, regardless of the price of a token or whatever. So like I think that's a very good example of what a community is.
Yeah, so a few of you alluded to kind of the challenges of the community in the bear market, and I guess that some of the fair weather community members are out the door, and the speculative ones, which I imagine can be a good thing in some respect. Because
it is a good thing, yeah.
Who's left are the ones that are really trained on that mission. But yeah, how do you keep up the view of shared interest, of patience in a time like this? Maybe we start there, and then we can go to how you retain.
Yeah, I think like it all comes down to the vision. I think like if you are good at selling a vision and telling people like this is where we want to go and this is where we want to get, and people buy into that vision, I think like the market conditions are a plus or a little minus in that sense. But as long as there is a strong vision with a community, I think like the market is just like something external. Like people continue to build, people continue to get involved. It's true, like that in some communities, market conditions are a reality, but as long as there is a strong vision, I think that's half of the work done.
Yeah, I think if you can get people to buy into that vision, right? I think that's the hard part usually. If you can manage to kind of create this shared vision and also shared community where everyone kind of pulls along, I think that's totally right. But yeah, and I do think kind of the token part of it is kind of very important on that as well, because you have shared ownership, right? You care more about a project you're kind of also invested in on that side. But that should kind of be the second or third part of kind of when you start building a community, right? Starting to get people involved, do hackathons, do a lot of kind of community building events that are focused on the vision and on the project itself and what's possible there, and less so on the token itself and the structure there. So I think, yeah, I would definitely agree, and I think kind of engaging the community on that side. I think you mentioned you're doing like code and chill sessions where people can code with you and just hang out and just kind of create this sense of community as well around the day-to-day, so to say. I think if you can manage to get people to buy into that, then you're like in a very strong position going forward. And if you can create that interest in a bear market, then you're kind of in a very very good position going forward.
Yeah, I actually think that bear markets are kind of an opportunity to forge the strongest aspects and the strongest bonds inside of your community that will take you forward into the next cycle. Because the people that are still around are really the true believers of the project. And then it's much easier for them to meet each other and like find alignment and become a lot closer. And they form, the core that will like kind of take you to the next cycle. Like during this like kind of market cycle, I've decided to spend a lot more time just like engaging with developers, engaging with the people that are still around in spite of like the price go. And it's amazing that we have like community of people that are still around. Like I did a code and chill session. I'd say we've had on average about like 20 people like each session, and one session we had like
a
50
code and chill,
people.
not a code and chill, right?
Code and
yeah.
chill.
Okay.
No, all just coding, all just talking about the tech, no price stuff. And yeah, that's a limited audience, right? But the people there are the next generation of people building on Juno, and we're definitely like, I've been talking about Leet Society during my last talk. We've started this developer DAO. It's organized in a guild structure, so you have the masters, the journeymen, and the apprentices, and that is another exercise in creating a really strong, very core community. And part of what attracts them to that, and this is beyond price, right? These are people that care about like building like the next generation of decentralized technologies. They want access to like learning and education, and that's the best way is this in-person kind of cohort and network and secret society. And then from that, we're also like kind of incubating some projects and trying to generate real connections and friendships and networks, and we're also connecting some like investors to that community to make sure that the what is coming out of this is like generating like real opportunities that are going to like come to fruition like the next cycle. I mean, obviously these are large investments in time that really just pay off with time, but I think that the best thing projects can do these days is, yes, there's going to be people that will, like, nothing you do is going to matter until the number goes up. And sometimes the number goes up is like a little bit outside of your hands. It's the macro, it's the ecosystem, right? But what you can do is find the people that really still care about your project and still believe in it, and then just every effort you would use to apply to like all the people fighting your project on Twitter or complaining about it, like, and you should also, sometimes there's really valid complaints in the community, you should definitely listen to them, we can maybe talk about that, but you should spend a lot more energy on the people that are still there and that are really invested, and the people that are still interested in building during the worst of times, because those are the true believers, and you should make sure you reward the true believers.
Yeah, and I think also you in every community you have a loud minority in general, right? That can be positive, but also negative. And these people usually get the most attention, but they are not necessarily the ones contributing the most. So I think if you can really figure out who are the core people that contribute to you, and especially I think for a lot of projects that are building infrastructure, that is those developers, maybe students that are just learning about crypto and blockchains, and kind of getting those people engaged and getting them to stay. I think it's great if you can manage that, and if you focus on those people and align ownership and align the kind of the shared values there, then it's fantastic.
So Jake, you mentioned bringing different voices in the room. You said you have users, you have some folks that are building or looking for a co-founder, then you said investors. Do you feel like it's your role to curate that community, or is it more if you build it, these different perspectives come organically?
It's a bit of both.
Yeah.
You gotta like provide at least like the basic part of the initial structure and some of the initial peel, you gotta give it the initial shape, but after a while, it kind of takes on a life of its own. So like with Leet Society, for example, for like our masters, we have to have cool people that people want to like learn from and be mentored from, right? And Jack Zamplin and I are part of it, and we both have funds. Like he has Galileo, and I'm starting Analog Interchain with Sam, and we've also been like kind of well-known builders in the space who have very technical background, but we also have some like amazing developers in the space, like Dan from Cosmology, one of the best front-end engineers in all of Cosmos, making amazing great tooling. We have like some great smart contract engineers who've worked on things like DAO and interchain protocols, like ICS 721, and so like those are people that people are craving mentorship, and they're craving like actually like the documentation is not necessarily very great when you're on the cutting edge, right? So the only way to learn is kind of this social network, and a lot of times that kind of becomes an exclusive like insider society. If you're not in like CosmWasm Twitter, you don't know what the best libraries to use are or whatever. And so, I think the way I've been thinking about it is you do need that basic initial structure of what the idea is, but it should be as minimal as possible, but have like all the elements, right? You have like potential access to opportunities of like, you should feel like by joining Leet Society, I can get a job from this somehow. you know? Or maybe I'll be able to like start a company or a startup or a DAO out of it. You should also feel like by joining Elite Society, I'll get some learning. So you have to have this basic structure, but we really do think that like once it starts, it's probably going to take on a life of its own, and people that are in it are going to just come up with their own ideas, and they're going to be like, let's issue NFT badges, or let's, you know, do this or do that, you know? So that's great. That's what we want to happen. But you need that initial structure, because in a structureless environment, and I've seen this before with communities in crypto especially a lot of DAOs, they just have this completely structureless environment, and then nothing happens.
Yannick, Hector, I imagine, like on the validator side, you're more probably the recipient of efforts to call or like curate value-add community members.
Well, we're kind of professional community members, I would say,
Right.
where we, you know, if we are supporting a chain on the validator side, of course we're participating in governance, and Chorus One specifically has been very active, and also was, I think, one of the first validators to always share kind of how we voted and why we voted that way on a proposal that came up, you know, on Twitter, so that people from the community of the chain or the project that we validate on also understand kind of our reasoning and our positioning there, and can then also decide, do they delegate to us? Because kind of the two communities that we have is obviously the projects we work with, but then also the people that delegate to us, you know, may that be kind of professional clients and institutional players, or, you know, people that delegate to the public validators that we provide. And so, yeah, just trying to be very active, you know, outgoing, I would say. We don't really have our own community in that sense, but, you know, being, you know, strong partners and being core contributors in the different communities where we support the network, I think that's where we try to kind of, you know, do a lot of work. We also do a lot of research, you know, for different projects, and, you know, all these, you know, MEV and all these different topics, see if there's, you know, new things we can find there that we can then also provide as kind of, you know, knowledge, and obviously also a lot of education, you know, creating content around, you know, how staking works on a certain network, and, you know, where users can go to if they want to get involved and they want to, you know, delegate their tokens. So it's a little bit more, I would say, kind of a professional community member that comes in from that side. But yeah, we try to do our best and try to contribute and be one of those, you know, aligned, you know, shared vision community members.
I think like from a validator standpoint, when you have 175 validators in each chain, it's very difficult to stand out. And I think like there are two parts, right? Like your delegators, you are accountable to them because they want you to vote in a certain way, and for that to happen, you have to have a path. Like, this is what I support, this is what I stand for, and I think that's very important for your community to know it and to be sure that no matter what happened, you have a strong point in each of the issues that surrounds a chain. But also, there is another aspect, and for us, for example, is like our mission that drives us, and for us is privacy and CK. So I think like we have taken this stand so people know that everything we do in one way or another is moving towards a common goal, which is pushing these two narratives. And I think like when you don't have that sense of a community, because where we are is, you know, like as you said, we are in the middle between protocols and users. I think like you have to be even more clear on, you know, researching, how you said, communicating your votes and being as accountable as possible for the rest of the people.
No.
Yeah, I guess I'm curious about the modes of communication in the community. So obviously Twitter's come up a couple times, but is there, whether it's like a novel way that you've connected or something you think we might be missing? Obviously you interact at gatherings like this, but how else every day are you interacting with the community?
It's mainly, of course, Twitter is a big channel for any crypto stakeholder. In our case, we detected that, for example, in the Cosmos ecosystem, there were many things happening in terms of governance and news, and there was not a structured way of getting that, and we created a newsletter. That's a way to communicate with not only our stakers, but also like the whole community in general. And then, for example, I think there is two worlds. One is the online world and the physical world, and I think the physical worlds matter because you need that contact. You need to see people face to face. You need to interact with your community members in order to create that fraternity, that power between all of them. So I think like for sure, like events like this one and other events are very important.
I mean, I'd say Discord and Telegram are probably still pretty important as well. Again, like we don't really have, I mean, we have a Discord and we also have a Telegram community channel, but it's, very, very small compared to I think some of the projects that are here. So we try to be, active in those Discords of those different projects and have people there. And yeah, I mean, I do spend too much time, I would say, in the various Discords and participate in conversations and having the ability to have like different channels about different topics and having that structure a little bit as well as like what should this conversation be about and not just one channel where everyone yells about what they feel like. It's probably like a good starting point. But yeah, I don't know, maybe you can say more to how you guys structure this, but yeah, for us it's definitely I think Discord is probably the main channel of communication.
We have all the channels. Once you're a public crypto project, you have all the channels whether you like them or not, and we have some really great people that like work on managing all those channels. And so yeah, I agree. In-person events are great. I agree with everything that's been said so far. But lately, especially in this bear market, I've been thinking very much about really spending time with the core contributors and the true believers. And I've been spending a lot more time in almost like one-on-ones of just saying like, hey, I really appreciate what you do with the community. You want to like hop on a call or just chatting with them individually and not necessarily in these like public spaces, because that's, you have to keep those are the most important people, like the people that are still developing on your project and the people that are still believe in it, and just like, I think that especially in this time, like it's really important to like invest in those kind of people, and those are the kind of people that are going to take you forward into the next era. It's like will be the like, I can't think of a better word at the moment, but evangelists of the future. So I've been definitely spending a lot more time, and in many ways I find those conversations a lot more like refreshing than the super public ones. Obviously it's important to chime in on the Telegrams and Twitter, but I think that's something I would recommend to other projects in the space. If you have like a really large community like Juno, is spend time doing one-on-ones with like your best contributors and like the people that are really involved. I think you'll find that really, really rewarding, and they will also really, really appreciate that and love that you took the time.
Jake, I know in your talk yesterday, there were two words that came up a few times. So one was vibes, good vibes, and then the other was drama.
Okay.
You talk about, there were a lot of other words that sounded, that sounded very drop mic, but those stayed with me. I was like, we need the good vibes and we need less drama. So what is the drama that comes in the community? And how do you kind of deflect it or manage it or harness it?
Drama is not unique to crypto. It has been fundamental in human society since the very beginning, but we now have the privilege of Twitter. So, it's, I mean, first of all, you have to realize that there's always going to be drama. That's just real. When we're building sovereign blockchains, these are like effectively like political systems. Like almost every vote, has there ever been 100% vote in Cosmos? I don't know. I mean, there's definitely been some ones with very high yes percentage that most people are behind, but they're oftentimes, they're divisive, and that's always going to create like a bit of drama. I think that the important thing, especially during this time, is as leaders in the space, and this was part of my talk yesterday, I'm just going to kind of reiterate a little bit of it. As leaders in the space, as founders, as like core devs of our different projects, we have to realize and set the tone of the conversation, right? We have to realize that we are all tied together as an ecosystem, and how we talk to each other as like, founders and as our projects. We want to try to set the tone where it's less about, only one of these kinds of projects can, only one DEX can succeed in Cosmos, or only one permissionless blockchain can and really the reality is the opposite. We succeed or die as an ecosystem. And as leaders in this space, which is a great way to come to Gateway, because I feel like there's a nice concentration of builders here, we have to create those good vibes. We have to get people from outside the ecosystem excited about the interchain. And the only way we do that is kind of like burying the hatchet a little bit, you know? A lot of times, like many of the founders in the Cosmos, we've like known each other for a while. There's all sorts of past baggage and history, but, you know, like for the good of our projects, it's better to just kind of, you know, set that aside as much as possible, because it doesn't help the price, you know? It doesn't help really anything. It's pointless fighting, and it's a huge waste of energy. You know, obviously articulate what's different about your project and why your smart contract chain or your DEX is going to be the next big thing, but be very mindful and like even try to create this culture inside your community of like, let's just be positive towards the ecosystem. You know, there's always going to be drama, but I think also important in drama, it's important to listen. One of the things that, you know, we've had some big drama incidences in Juno, if you've never heard about them before, but I think that's because people really care. And that's the thing, is people care about these chains. They care about these projects. And it's important when drama does happen to like really try to like not inflame people even more. Like try to be as neutral as possible, don't use inflammatory language. Also, and try to create a space for like hearing people out. Like when drama does happen, one of the things I like to do is create a Twitter space right away. Get people to come out in person and not just talk with mean tweets, but like have to come up with a mic and, you know, express what, you know, how they feel about stuff. And usually when you do like Twitter spaces as opposed to like tweets, when people are actually talking to each other, even if it's someone that they're really mad at and they really hate, usually people are a lot more polite than if they like are just like firing off like text tweets or whatever. So
Keyboard warriors.
yeah, and so, you know, it's important to like, oftentimes there's like, you know, there's a lot to learn from criticism. You know, I think definitely during bear markets, crypto communities a little bit bipolar. Like when times are good, nothing's wrong. Rose-colored glasses number goes up, and when, you know, times are bad, it's the opposite. But during the bad times, it's important to listen. You're getting valuable feedback, right? It might be overly negative, it might be hard to hear, but it's important to listen, listen to it in a constructive way, you know? But yeah, I guess my call to other founders in the space around my talk yesterday, and I'll let you guys also respond. I'm sorry, I've been holding the mic, but
There's going to be some drama if you don't let them talk.
all right, but
joke, I
good vibes. We really do succeed as an ecosystem, and one of the things that has been great about this conference is I feel like between Cosmos founders, there's been a lot better vibes, and we want the outside community to feel that. Because when I go on Twitter, I don't see the good vibes that are here between the projects, like, you know, and so like let's try to like bring that more to the external community so that we can, you know, get back to hashtag IBC gang days.
Yeah. You two blokes don't strike me as the ultra dramatic sort, but
Not today.
I'm not getting that vibe. But are you part of these dramas? Do you think you are? Are you diffusers more as infrastructure partners?
I mean, like, I tend to see, like, personally, I tend to see validators as political actors, and as any political actor, because you have to contribute in governance and you have to put positions out there, you are not exempt of drama. There has been many propositions and governance proposals that have been very intense in conversations in the community, and I think like it's natural that people that stake to you or people that in communities where you have a high stake call you out because you vote yes or no in XYZ proposition, and I think like we are not immune to that, and the best way to get out of the drama part and go to a more constructive place is by explaining, as he said, like explaining why we vote this way and how can we make sure that, for example, I think Atom 2.0 is a good example. It's like there were many good things about the proposals, other in the middle, and it ended up not happening. But if you take a look around, like there has been many of the parts of that proposal that came to life by the community. So I think like that's a good example that was 50-50 more or less, like close call, but at the end of the day, drama can be constructive because we can learn and put into practice that things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think constructive drama, right? Like if people should disagree and should argue and should you know, kind of have constructive conversations, but yeah, it shouldn't, you know, if you're just lashing out, then you're not really contributing anything. And so I think I like what you said, kind of, you know, having one-on-one conversations, like getting to get more context and actually talk to the people that are valuable in a community, because I think in the end a lot of people just they want to be heard, they want to feel like they're being treated fairly, and if they don't feel their way, of course they're gonna lash out and not gonna be happy. But I think in conversation and with more context, a lot of times what seemed to be really, really bad maybe it's not as bad as it first appeared. But yeah, otherwise I think the guys said it all.
Maybe to close us out, could each of you maybe give an example of a contribution you're proud of that you or your company has made to a community, or maybe for you, a shout out to a community member who has really stayed the course, a journeyman, made their mark, a community that's done something really well when it comes to retaining members and activating them in the last year? Any of the above?
There are so many people in the Juno community that are really stepping up right now as we speak. We have actually a group of over about 30 people that are working really hard on Juno governance reforms, on the Juno Constitution, and it's an amazing working group. And some of them have huge frustrations with Juno. Like, there are big critics of. They still love it, but they've got hey, stuff's not been perfect in the past, and we're not doing this right, and we're not doing And it's been this most amazing, kind of rich discussion, and people are working really hard and writing these big documents about plans for the future, and it is one of the things that has made me the most bullish about Juno that I've been in ages, or in a year, I don't know. So it's I think that's also important, is sometimes, one-on-ones are great, but also having smaller groups of really well-informed people rather than trying to have a really important discussion in the main Telegram channel. That's so useful. But I want to shout out to the Juno Reform Working Group. They're doing an amazing job, and there's just so many great ideas that are happening in there. And we're working on synergizing all that, and we're going to bring it out to the community very soon and make sure that we're communicating everything that's happening there. But every single person in that group has just been amazing.
I think for us, it's just, we're still very bullish Cosmos ecosystem as a whole. I mean, we still see, everyone building and doing great things, and so we're still actively investing and trying to, support projects that kind of fit our thesis. I mean, we're an infrastructure provider, so that's where we lean the most. But I think for us, it's still we're very much bullish that the community can come together and kind of sort of pull through past the 12-month that have been addressed a couple times here on stage as well.
Yeah, the same. I feel like the Cosmos community in general is a pretty awesome experiment and a pretty awesome place to be. We validate in many other chains. Every chain has its own, every ecosystem, every community has its own pluses, but I think the Cosmos community is one of the strongest out there. And I think the more it grows and the more we mature as a community together, the further we will grow in the next coming years.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us and for closing us out with maybe the most important thing of all, how vibrant this community is and how excited we all are to be here and have spent time together. So thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, guys. Thank you. So right now, we're going to have the closing act. I would like to invite everyone who is still outside to come here to the main stage, because you don't know what I know, but I was in the backstage. I overheard what is going to happen, and there is some surprise. Everyone's a little bit giddy. I know why, and you really don't want to miss out. So please, everyone, if you're here still in the building, come to the main stage. It will be worth it. Trust me. This is going to be wild. All right, so thank you, everyone. Thank you that you were here with Gateway to Cosmos. And please give a warm welcome again to Samantha Bobot.
hey, I promise to keep this short because you've all been this thing keeps going in my face. You've all been such troopers. And I can imagine you want to go see Prague at this point. Okay, so first, I want to thank you all not just for coming. Sorry, this thing's right in my eye. Okay. Thank you for coming Yeah, but also just bringing this energy. I mean, yesterday, if any of you follow me on Twitter, I never tweet, but I became like a Twitter troll, being like, I can't believe how many people are here for this demo session and cheering and standing in the back, and this is all at 5 p.m. on a Sunday. So from that, just to your participation in workshops, everything else, you know, at the beginning here, I said this was a labor of love for our team, but you guys made it feel a lot less laborious, and we felt a ton of fun and a lot of love, so. Next to. Yeah, so we did connect. I think on the first day here, I said something like, there's going to be a lot of sparks that are going to fly. I think at least one person is going to find a co-founder. I think like 10 or 20 of you can find partnerships, maybe a check if there's an investor who's writing them around here. And you're going to have fun, and you're going to make new friends. So I made that bold prediction. If you have managed to spend these 3 days here and you haven't done any of that, you still have an opportunity tonight at the Celestia closing party, and I have no doubt you will leave with one of those. But for now, I did kind of want us to focus on how do we make these connections enduring, right? How do we take what we've done here, you know, whether that's just kind of going through the Telegram for all of you and saying, who is this person, and is there really a way we can collaborate? And following through on that, that could be awesome, but just taking the spirit of this forward. We also said at the start that this audience wasn't going to be a passive one. Everything from the workshops to talking to panels, shouting out any questions, that we really wanted you to come here, be chatty, and think of it in terms of like, what contribution are you making to this community? So I'm going to ask you to get talking just one more time. We're going to do a bit of a reflection exercise. I think at the start I did this and it was turn to your right. And my friend said, you can't say turn to your right again because it sounds biased. I was like, okay. So turn to your left, and we're going to ask each other 2 questions. I'm going to put them up on screen now. And so they are, what was the highlight of your experience? And then what's a new, and maybe it's not new, but it's just like an affirmed, really strongly held prediction that you have for Cosmos coming out of this. And I'm going to give you a few minutes. Hi. So someone didn't have someone to their left, and I'm going to quote him because his response was really good. He said, he's like, the highlight for me was that so many conferences you need the VIP ticket or like the crazy intro or contact to talk to founders, whereas I had so much of that here. And so that was wonderful. Okay, so the second one was about predictions. Leading up to this, we did a little bit of a crowdsourcing exercise. So we asked a good group of our speakers for their big predictions coming in. Admittedly, some of them are a little punchier than others, where they caveated with like, this one's really obvious, this one's out there, and I was like, just give them to me. So if we formulate as we expect, our first one was most chains in the next 5 years are modular. Next, IBC wins as the industry standard for interoperability. A Cosmos app chain is a top 5 DeFi project by TVL. Cosmos chains support ETH by this time next year. And then we've been tweeting, asking people, not just who are in this room, but beyond, to vote on these. I guess you can think for a second now about your prediction. And if you're right, you should get yourself a nice drink. Sorry, what? Oh, I thought someone. So I think this was our team's prediction. So we thought this was going to win out. And we're quite surprised by what you all voted for, which was, I didn't have time to update the slides, but the winner was ETH. So number 1 was that ETH is going to come integrated by this time next year. Number 2 was IBC. Number 3, the modular. And then Cosmos app chain. So yeah, that was our predictions. I I guess before we round out, I just want to thank all our sponsors. I think when I opened this up, I said, you know, these aren't just folks who've written a check or contributed to making this all possible. They've been curated. We asked them to come because they really are contributors to this community. They're kind of co-conspirators of ours and others here. And I think that's been clear. So if you've gone to the lounges or if you've met these people buzzing around, they're all making really interesting contributions to this space. And then finally, we want to, so to be clear, we are not organizing these. I think our team is conference organized out for at least a little while, but we have some great friends who are having events in the next months, so maybe we or you all will see each other there. So there's OSMOCon and Nebular Summit, I believe, is in Paris in about 6 weeks, and then of course there's Cosmoverse in Istanbul. So if you have any post-conference doom and gloom where you're wondering when you're going to see everyone again, shout out that that's going to happen soon. So I'm going to now turn it over to my fabulous colleague, Martin. He has taken this stage, I think, twice or 4 times. He gave a workshop on Observatory. That's our platform that's showing visibility into the level of chain decentralization, and he's building out a ton of tools to help everyone. So projects, users, stakeholders, investors to contribute to making chains more decentralized. I think in my opening, I actually said that one of our big governing beliefs or visions as a company is that we expect chain decentralization to increase, I had said, in the years or weeks or years ahead, or weeks, months, years ahead. Well, we've actually managed to do it in days. Before I give too much away, Martin, over to you. Oh.
Hey, Samantha, thanks. Thank you for making this look serious, because it's about to go down. So some of you may know, we announced a challenge together with the White Whale team to decentralize the Migaloo network, and this was announced last Monday. So when we started out, the Nakamoto coefficient on the network was just over 9 and just on the very edge of 10, right? There was number 10 there, but it was very, very close to dropping to 9. And look at the red bars below. If you've been to the talk to the observatory, you'll know the red bars are concentrations of voting power inside Hetzner and OVH. And both of these together were 60% for the Migaloo chain. So we issued a challenge to the community of White Whale to help decentralize the chain, using no small part the tooling that we've developed here at Rockaway X, which is the observatory. And then in the middle of it, we released StakeBar, on which day 1, day 2, about several $100,000 were staked to decentralize the chain. And today, thank you, Sam. Today, the Nakamoto coefficient is comfortably 11. It's almost 12. So we're talking about increasing the Nakamoto coefficient by almost 2 spots in 7 days. And moreover, the concentration on the bottom at the ISP level, the amount of voting power in Hetzner and OVH is now 45%, down from originally 60. So 15% of voting power within this week up and left. So we got to call out a few cool validators like Notional, VaultStake, SCV Security, all these guys. Big kudos to you. You've moved out. Hopefully I haven't forgotten anybody. If yes, we'll tweet them out. But as a result of this major change, the CTO of White Whale has an announcement to make. So welcome, David.
Thank you, Martin. So first, I'd like to thank everybody who helped organize this conference. The last few days have been fantastic, and you guys did a fantastic job. So let's give them a round of applause. Now, you heard Martin. The Cosmos has a problem of centralization. The active sets are too top-heavy, and Hetzner could probably shut down most of the ecosystem if they wanted to. We can do better than this. We need tools for transparency, so we know where centralization happens. That's why Rockaway built the observatory. We need tools so we can address the centralization issues. That's why Rockaway built the StakeBar. In just 1 week, we achieved so much on Migaloo that we've become one of the most decentralized chains in the whole ecosystem. This wouldn't have been possible without the help of Martin and Rockaway. It wouldn't have been possible without our great validators, like Notional, who went bare metal, or Silknotes, who increased their commission to drive away some stake. It wouldn't have been possible without our fantastic community. So thank you, everybody. A week ago, when we discussed this challenge, we set some community milestones, Nakamoto coefficient, get away from Hetzner, and so on. Back then, Martin wanted to get me a tattoo if we reached those milestones. I told him, no, we're not doing this. But I agreed to shave my head in the name of decentralization. So please come up, let's do this. Shave for decentralization and shave the whale. Martin?
Yes. Time to pay up, David. You've promised the community. The community has delivered. And now we have here the final result. We have our master shaver from the Rockaway X team. Kudos to Tomasz for taking up the challenge and shaving Sencom. So, you ready? Let's do it. Boy, man, decentralization really hurts sometimes, doesn't it? Promise is a promise. And the White Whale community team is showing it's absolutely listening to the community. Jesus. Okay. We haven't asked the community about the length of the hair yet, but I think you'll see the results speak for themselves when we're done. I'm seeing big chunks of hair falling down right now. I'm getting tingling in my arms. You see how far away I'm standing from that shaver? Wow, okay. That's a lot of hair. I don't think anybody has ever tried this before, so we're happy twice. Number one, it's been demonstrated that communities can really move chains, right? They can affect what the chain looks like. There's a lot of power in their hands, and they've done it in such a short time altogether. And number two, we're saving David money for his barbershop bill, right? So that's another benefit. Want to leave him like a Buddhist monk sort of thingy in the back? No, it's going all down? Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
You can
Almost there.
Open
almost
up
there.
Steak Bar and
It's all going down.
accelerate.
Okay. I think it's done. All right.
We didn't achieve 14 yet, so we have to leave something.
Right. Okay.
We still have room to decentralize.
Okay. Community has delivered. So has David. I think we're all done here. We've done amazing. Kudos to David for his bravery. And yeah, thanks again to everybody who made this happen. It's an awesome solution. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, finally, we're all done here. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening and time in Prague. And I want to thank my team. I see a few of you here, but it's been a tremendous team effort to put this together. And yeah, we've been so lifted by all of you, and we're so grateful to you all for making the trip and really bringing your most energetic, dare I say, I think bull market energy vibes, okay? So see you in the next bull market. Thank you all. Bye.